Good morning, boys and girls. Today is day 4 of your week 5 packet. We are going to be reading about the Fennec Fox. We'll start by giving this article a first read just to get the gist of what it's mostly about. Then we'll read a second time to mark up the text. And then we will read a third time to answer questions. Good readers always read more than one time. Fennec Fox. The fennec fox lives in North Africa and can be found throughout the Sahara Desert and east to Sinai and Arabia. Fennec foxes prefer to live in sandy deserts and arid regions with low-growing plants. The fennec fox uses its sharp, curved claws to dig large burrows with tunnels up to 32 feet in length. These dens have many entrances and exits to help them escape from predators. Fennec foxes line their burrows with bits of fur and feathers to make them soft and cozy. They sleep during the day to escape the heat of the desert. Most foxes live alone, but fennec foxes are social animals. They live in family groups of up to 10 members. The fennec fox is about 15 inches long and weighs about 3 pounds. Its tail is 7 to 12 inches long and has a black tip. The fennec fox's tail is useful because it helps the fox change direction as it runs. Its tail also keeps its nose and feet warm while it sleeps. The fennec fox has tan fur, so it blends in with its sandy habitat. Its fur is thick to keep it warm during cold winter nights. One of the things that make the fennec fox easy to recognize is its ears. Its ears are especially large compared to its body. The fennec fox's ears always stand straight up and are 4 to 6 inches in length. They have excellent hearing and are able to hear underground prey. Their ears also help them get rid of body heat to cool the foxes in the hot desert climate. At night, fennec foxes search for food. They are omnivores, eat both meat and plants, and hunt for insects like grasshoppers or locusts, small birds, mice, and lizards. They also eat roots, grasses, fruits, and berries. They can survive a long time without water. In fact, they get most of their water from the foods they eat. Usually, fennec foxes have 1 litter of pups with 2 to 5 babies each year. The pups weigh only about 50 grams when they are born. The pups are born blind but open their eyes when they are about 8 to 11 days old. They start walking when they are about 2 weeks old. The pups drink their mother's milk for the first 10 weeks of life. They become adults at 9 to 11 months old. Fennec foxes live about 12 years in the wild. Okay, now that you have read this article, mark up your text, number each paragraph. They already did that for you. Double star important facts. Circle keywords or details you want to remember. Put an X over things you don't understand. Put a question mark over things you find confusing or have questions about. Underline unfamiliar words. Put an exclamation mark over things you find interesting. And draw an arrow next to parts you made connections to. Pause the video here. When you are finished marking up the text, push play. Okay, so I marked up my text and we're going to go over a few things. Remember, yours will look completely different because some things might be the same, but this is individualized to you. These are words you don't know or things you want to remember are important that you made connection to that you thought were interesting. So it's okay if you didn't do yours exactly like mine. So one thing that I thought was an important fact is that the fennec fox lives in North Africa and can be found throughout the Sahara Desert and east to Sinai in Arabia. I thought that was important because since we're learning about them, it's important to know where they are, where they come from. I also thought it was important to know that they live in family groups of up to 10 members. So they're not animals that like to be alone. Something that I wanted to remember was that one of the things that makes the fennec fox easy to recognize is its ears. If we look at the picture, you can definitely see why they say that. One thing I thought was super interesting, their ears also help them get rid of body heat to cool the foxes in the hot desert climate. That was really interesting to me, and I kind of feel like I've heard that before with other animals. Maybe it was elephants. I think I've heard, so maybe I could even make a connection to that. I think I heard that that's why elephants have such large ears, because it helps them stay cool. And then I also thought it was really interesting. It says, the pups are born blind, but open their eyes when they are about 8 to 11 days old. So I thought that was really interesting. They can't see for over a week, 8 to 11 days old. And then I made a connection to this last part. They become adults at 9 to 11 months old. Fennec foxes live about 12 years in the wild. Because that reminded me of dogs, right? A lot of dogs at about 11 months old, they're considered adult dogs, or about a year. And dogs also, some live longer than others, but they also live, 12 years or around there. Let's go over some of these words that we found in here. I saw that it said fennec foxes prefer to live in sandy deserts and arid regions with low growing plants. Now, you might not have heard what an arid region is. But you do know what a sandy desert is. So when you think of sandy deserts, you think of no rain or very, very little rain. It doesn't have a lot of plants there. So when it says sandy deserts and arid regions with low growing plants, an arid region is just a type of region where there's not a lot of rain and it's really dry. So an arid region is a region where you can find deserts. Then you also had this word burrows, and they give us several clues for the word burrows. If you don't know what it is, says that they dig large burrows with tunnels up to 32 feet in length. Well, here's a clue. So if they're digging, then we generally think of they're digging in the ground or in the dirt, right? And when we think of tunnels, we also think of underground. We know that they sleep in them. So this is where you can take your schema and make connections to that. You know that some animals do live in holes in the ground. So a burrow is some kind of large hole in the ground that can have tunnels with entrances and exits where the fennec fox sleeps and lives. Okay, and then omnivores, and the text gave you a definition right here in parentheses. Instead of separating it with a comma, they did it with parentheses. An omnivore is an animal that eats both meat and plants. And then right here, this word locust, you might not know, but it told you insects like grasshoppers or locust. So locust is a type of insect. Okay, so let's go ahead now and go to our questions. It says directions. For number 1 to 8, use your crayons to underline evidence from the text. Make sure to underline the complete sentence and not simply a word or two. So they want us to underline a complete sentence. If you don't have these colors, you can always cross them off and change them to the colors you do have. If you don't have colors at all, then you can replace these words with a symbol, like using a star, using a square, using dots. You can just change them to some kind of pattern or symbol. And then the last part says, there are 6 paragraphs in the passage. Match the question about the text to the number of the paragraph where the answer is found. I can see that the rest of the week we've been talking about main idea and details, supporting details. And today we are looking for text evidence. We are just going and getting right there questions. So we're practicing going back and reading the text and finding specific information. We are going to pause the video and I want you to do the first 3. And when you're finished with the first 3, push play and we'll do it together. Okay, so for number 1, it said using blue underline the text which explains how long a fennec fox's ears are. You should have underlined this third sentence in paragraph 4. The fennec fox's ears always stand straight up and are 4 to 6 inches in length. This whole paragraph mostly is talking about its ears, but they specifically wanted the sentence that said how long they are. Number 2, using red, underline the text which describes how the fennec fox's tail is helpful when it sleeps. That was the key right there. It was in paragraph 3. The whole thing is mostly about its tail, but they wanted how was it helpful when it sleeps. Its tail also keep its nose and feet warm while it sleeps. And then number 3, using yellow, underline the text which describes how its thick fur is helpful at night. So this paragraph also talked about its thick fur, but we want to know how it was helpful just at night. So it should have been the last sentence in paragraph 3. Its fur is thick to keep it warm during cold desert nights. Next, we're going to do questions 4, 5, and 6. Pause the video here, underline the parts for 4, 5, and 6, and when you think you've got it, push play and we'll check it together. Okay, number 4 said, using green, underline the text which tells how many babies are usually born in a litter. You should have found that down here in paragraph 6. The topic sentence said, usually fennec foxes have 1 litter of pups with 2 to 5 babies each year. Number 5, using purple, underline the text which explains what kind of plants the fennec fox eats. You should have found it in paragraph 5. It talks about what they eat. It says they also eat roots, grasses, fruits, and berries. And then for number 6, using orange, underline the text which describes what fennec foxes do to make their burrows soft and cozy. So it was important to keep reading, not to make their burrows, but to make them soft and cozy. That's the sentence you want. So I found it in paragraph 2. Fennec foxes line their burrows with bits of fur and feathers to make them soft and cozy. Now you're going to go ahead and do questions 7 and 8. So pause the video here, and when you think you're ready, push play and we'll check it together. Okay, question 7, using brown, underline the text which describes where fennec foxes live in North Africa. The topic sentence right here, the fennec fox lives in North Africa and can be found throughout the Sahara Desert and east to Sinai and Arabia. Question 8, using black, underline the text which explains how many fennec foxes live in a group. That was in paragraph 2. They live in family groups of up to 10 members. For the bottom part, you are looking at the question and matching it to which paragraph. They're already numbered for you. We will do the first 3 together, and then you can see if you can do the last 4 on your own. How long is a fennec fox's tail? I know that paragraph 3 is about the fennec fox's tail. So let's read that again together and see if I can find how long its tail is. The fennec fox is about 15 inches long and weighs about 3 pounds. Its tail is 7 to 12 inches long and has a black tip. Oh, okay. It was paragraph 3. And you know what I thought? Since I'm trying to figure out which paragraphs match these questions, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and read my article again, and I'm going to put 1 to 2 keywords next to each paragraph of what they're about, because that will help direct me to the right paragraph. So pause your video here and write 1 to 2 keywords of what each paragraph is about. Okay, so I reread my article, and this is what I put for each paragraph. Paragraph 1 is mostly about where they live. Paragraph 2 is about their burrows and family. Paragraph 3, what they look like. Paragraph 4, their ears. Paragraph 5, what they eat. And paragraph 6, their pups or their babies. So now that I've kind of put some key words next to each paragraph, it should make this next part much easier. Question 10. Which insects do fennec foxes like to eat? I'm going to go to where it talks about what they eat. And then I can't just mark paragraph 5. I got to make sure it tells me that. At night, fennec foxes search for food. They are omnivores, eat both meat and plants, and hunt for insects like grasshoppers or locusts. So that's a sentence that tells me what insects they eat. So I can go ahead and mark paragraph 5. Okay, number 11. How large are fennec fox pups when they are first born? So let's go down here. Paragraph 6 is where I said it talked about their pups, but I want to make sure it has that fact in there, how large they are when they're first born. Usually, fennec foxes have 1 litter of pups with 2 to 5 babies each year. The pups weigh only about 50 grams when they are born. So that tells me how much they weigh. So yes, it will be paragraph 6. Okay, I would like you to do these last 4 on your own. So push pause here, and when you're finished, push play and we'll go over it together. Okay, so I've marked my answers. Let's go through and see if they match yours. Question 2, how does its tail help when it runs? If we go to paragraph 3, I know that told me what it looks like. And let's see if it tells us how a tail helps when it runs. The fennec fox is about 15 inches long and weighs about 3 pounds. Its tail is 7 to 12 inches long and has a black tip. The fennec fox's tail is useful because it helps the fox change direction as it runs. So how is its tail helpful? It helps it change directions as it runs. So yep, paragraph 3. Question 13. Why do fennec foxes sleep during the day? I found my answer in paragraph 2. Down here it says, they sleep during the day to escape the heat of the desert. Question 14. How do fennec foxes get most of their water? Well, I knew that paragraph 5 was about what they eat, and none of the rest talk about water, so I thought I would start there. At night, fennec foxes search for food. They are omnivores, eat both meat and plants, and hunt for insects like grasshoppers or locusts, small birds, mice, and lizards. They also eat roots, grasses, fruits, and berries. They can survive a long time without water. In fact, they get most of their water from the foods they eat. So how do they get most of the water? From the foods they eat in paragraph 5. And question 15, how are fennec foxes' ears helpful to them? I found it in paragraph 4. Says, they have excellent hearing and are able to hear underground prey. So it's helpful because they have great hearing and they can hear their underground prey. It also says their ears also help get rid of body heat to cool the foxes in the hot desert climate. That's important. So I found it in paragraph 4, and I knew that because I knew that this whole paragraph was about ears. Okay, boys and girls, this is your last page of the week, and I will see you again next week for the second half of our packet. It'll be for week 6. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.